So let's start off with the easy bit, Leonard. Why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself before we go into anything too technical?
Sure, yeah. So I've been working now for actually 18 years.
Oh, apologies.
In online behavioural targeting, ad targeting, this type of thing. I've been working in a number of startups in London, and each of those, you know, the thing that really drove me in each of those was to take the latest research from academia, from the universities, and to apply that in the real world. And so when you take something that, you know, somebody has developed very new in a sort of nice small university environment, and then you apply it in the real world where there's, you know, problems of scale, there's huge, very messy, dirty data sets. Putting that into the real world is where you really get intellectual property. And that is the exciting bit of seeing, you know, these ideas really work to fruition.
And if you go back to the basics for maybe some of the people in the room and just give us a short overview of the difference between AI, algorithm, machine learning, you know, if we just go back to that level.
Sure, yeah, there's lots of confusion about these terms, I think. You know, lots of people use them interchangeably, and really they're quite different things. And there are slight different, you know, definitions of some of these terms, but broadly speaking, I think we can easily classify them. So an algorithm is the simplest thing. It's really a set of instructions. In fact, it's a recipe. If you want to bake a cake, then that recipe is written like an algorithm. It says, turn on the oven, heat it up to however many degrees, mix your ingredients, whatever else. So you follow those instructions, that's the algorithm. Machine learning is a big stage on from that. So machine learning is an algorithm that can learn to recognize patterns in the data. So, you know, a very simple example that we've seen recently is Google have done a lot of work on image recognition. So, you know, machine learning techniques, give it enough data and it can learn to tell the difference between a picture of a dog and a picture of a cat. After you've trained it up on numerous pictures of dogs and cats, give it a new picture and it will classify that's a dog. So machine learning is really one step. It's an important part, but it is just it's learning to recognize patterns in the data. AI is really a step beyond that. So AI is the whole system, and you know, machine learning will probably be a part of that system, but there'll be many other components as well. So an AI system will be something that, a system that interacts with its environment. It will be taking decisions, and when it takes those decisions, it performs an action on the environment, and then it will monitor what happens after that. What was the effect of that action? So then it gets feedback, and with that feedback, it then closes the loop and can learn how to perform better. So an AI system will be, in our definition of an AI system, will be continuously learning how to optimize some particular goal by interacting with its environment and learning from those interactions.
So if we bring that back to some of the data that we just shared, how do LoopMe deliver those great results using AI?
So we do lots of things in LoopMe using AI. I mean, you know, first of all, then we are building predictive models which will optimize on real goals of value to the customer. So going beyond clicks and going beyond video views, but optimizing on things that actually matter, like do people go into store? Can we drive somebody to perform some specific action on the website? So we're using AI to do that. We're using the latest techniques in AI. You know, this is the really exciting part, as I said before, is taking those latest techniques and using them to do it. But we use AI at many levels to do this. So, you know, every decision on what to show and what ad to show a particular individual within LoopMe is the product of many different machine learning systems. So we have systems which are working on our data, filling in holes in that data, so predicting various demographics. We also have, we also build many models at many different levels. When I looked at the system this morning online, I saw that we have over 500 predictive models in our live system. So we're using a variety of techniques. We're building predictive models at many different levels so that we can optimize to many different types of data sets. A campaign that's running in the Far East for a new fashion accessory is going to work very differently and require quite different learning to a campaign that's running, say, in the UK that's trying to drive people into an auto showroom, for example. So we're using it at many different levels, and we're using it in many different places.
It's interesting, so 500 different models, and I often see kind of trade press where companies will launch their AI and they talk about having an AI model. So it seems like they're talking about singular, which is more likely an algorithm. But how would people, if they're in a conversation with someone talking about AI, how would they kind of ask the right questions to figure out whether it's AI or something less advanced?
Okay, so this is a really good question. AI is the flavour of the month. Everybody wants to be doing this, and everybody wants to call, whatever they've got AI. There's many different ways that you can get a clue as to what's really happening there. But one of the first things I think that's really important is how they measure the success of that AI. So every company will claim that they get X, uplift, and X is always a huge positive number. How exactly have they measured that? So the gold standard for measuring performance of AI systems is persistent concurrent control groups. That means you're splitting your traffic into two different groups, and so and you label that one group your control group, and a randomly chosen fraction of your traffic will fall into that group, and those people will stay in that control group. And you measure the performance of those, and concurrently, then the majority of your traffic will fall into your targeted group, and so you're splitting your traffic in real time in a persistent way so that you can measure the effect of your AI completely in an unbiased way. If you do a before and after test, for example, and I've seen lots of figures like this, of before we had AI, we got X, and now we've got AI, we've got X plus Y result. Well, lots of things change, You really can't compare what happened in January with what happens now. It's spring now, things are very different. Other things as well are how often your AI predictive models are updated. The old school way of doing things is that you gather a data set, you hand that data set down to a bunch of data scientists in some basement somewhere who pore over that data for a month or so, and they come back and say, hey, we found it. And you then encode that model, and then you apply it for a month or so. Well, okay, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, yes, very good, but things change. Models become stale, things come out of date. You need a system which is automatically updating your predictive models, that's doing that really in real time, and therefore is adapting and changing to how things change over time. Building a real-time updating system is a commitment. It's tough to do.
I suppose the opportunity for lots of customers is that, as we've seen from Lynette's research and our own, is they won't always have the opportunity themselves to build those machines, build those systems. So working with someone like ourselves is valuable. But if coming back to one of the key questions that was asked is, how would a client get the absolute best from a campaign where they're trying to drive a brand metric? So we've shown how we can use control groups to show the live uplift, but what are the other kind of recommendations you would give to clients?
So the key thing, the key thing here is let the AI make the decisions. So it's always very tempting for people to try to determine what their target audience is, and then say, I've got this campaign, I'm going to target this at women 18 to 25 based in metropolitan cities, plus X, plus Y, plus Z. Okay, great, that's, that may work. But what we find routinely is that target audiences, or rather the audiences that actually respond best to your ads, are not so tightly defined. That might be an important group, but there might also be other people as well. There might be, it might appeal to middle-aged men in rural locations as well, but to a lesser extent. And what we generally find is that when we look at what a predictive model has learned, then there may be 30 or 40 different factors that the model is combining together in a much more complex way than you can articulate by my target audience is women 18 to 24. So don't try to push the AI to do too much. Let it learn. Let it learn from the data. The data is truth here, and when it can learn from the data, then you will get better targeting.
And something that also came up earlier was the idea that a lot of companies have this black box. If I was to bring someone to your desk, can you open up the black box and show them the data on screen and kind of tell them what has had an effect on their campaigns? Is that something that we would be able to do for our clients as well?
Oh yes, absolutely. So this is highly important. Whenever anybody has a black box, then anything could be in there, and you really want to be able to ask people to show you what's going on inside. And it's like I said, these things that the AI are learning are really quite complicated, but a company should be able to give you a view of what are the major predictors here, what are the things that really what are the main things that made a difference here. I think it's highly important that the customers can see inside that black box, and the AI is to some degree explaining it.
Yes, it's that, the need for everyone for transparency. It's things like viewability, or it's things like your audiences. I think AI transparency is one of the next big things we'll start to see, and it will show up potentially quite a few companies that maybe haven't been quite as open as they should have been. Stepping, I suppose, a little bit away from the industry itself, are there things maybe broadly that you think you see big developments happening from AI, outside of advertising, or even, what is the next big step for advertising itself?
Okay, so things are changing so fast these days. Things are moving very fast, very forward very fast. And I think it was Niels Bohr who originally said that predictions are always very difficult, especially if they're about the future. And it is very hard to say where these things are going. However, in the ad industry, I can see a trend here, and I can see where things are going to be going in the next few years. It's not going to be in the next 6 months or 12 months, but 2 or 3, 4 years down the line. We've seen a massive growth in the number of channels. We've also seen a massive growth in the number of different touch points that machine learning systems like I've developed over the years actually have with the end customer. And but still largely we run campaigns that are mostly based in one channel and also mostly to move a customer from point A to a point B, which is just slightly further down the sales funnel. So, we might run a campaign at the beginning for brand awareness, where you're just trying to get the message out that, these are the sorts of things we do. Might run a different campaign, which is trying to, close the loop and make a purchase. Now, to me, where AI is going in this area is that we have the technology. In fact, I've worked on systems that have built the core of this, where you really want to be able to join up all of those campaigns. You want to have really one large joined up campaign, which you may have 50 or 60 very different advertising messages there. It will have awareness messages. It will have, if you purchase this tomorrow, you'll get this discount messages. And within the AI system itself, then, or let me say first of all, the funnel from awareness to actual purchase, is not a linear funnel. It's different for every individual. And, we still see this as a sort of linear process. It's very different for different people. And if we then feed all of this into a larger AI system, and then the AI system determines what's the right message, where exactly are you on within that funnel, and where is it best to try and get you to next. And for different people, that next stage will be different. And let the AI do that. Now, that is a step on from where we are. It's a much more difficult thing to do, but I can see the future here, where we have lots of messages, we pour it into all of those into the system, and let the AI determine when's the right time and what's the right message to get somebody to an end goal.
I think that's a brilliant place to leave it, and also it leads us very nicely to our next panel, which will be about risk and reward. Leonard, thank you very much.